Hey guys, so I absolutely loved The Last Jedi. So I wanted to make a theory video based off of the movie from things that happened. So if you have not seen The Last Jedi, do not watch this video. I do not want to give away any spoilers. So I repeat, if you have not watched The Last Jedi, do not watch this video. I do not want to ruin anything for you guys. It is an amazing movie. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So I'm going to talk about what everybody probably wants to hear first, and probably what everybody is talking about is the relationship between Kylo and Rey. So before the movie came out, there's a lot of speculation about Kylo and Rey having a romance. There was a lot of evidence that I thought was pointing to that, but I didn't want to make a video of it until I watched the movie. But for instance, in the novelization Force Awakens, Kylo and Rey have had these dreams and visions of each other their whole lives. In the book, he almost touches her face. And in the novelization of Force Awakens, Rey thinks to herself about how his face looks almost sensitive. Also, in the novelization, Snoke says that Kylo has compassion for her, and he says to Kylo, it's not her strength that's making you fail, it's your weakness. And I learned about all those little details in the novelization. I thought to myself that it would be really creepy if they were related because it sounded really romantic. I also figured that they didn't include those details in Force Awakens because it would have given it away. It would have given the romance away. I knew that Rey wasn't a Skywalker, especially, or Solo, especially when they were seeing each other and she was telling him to cover up. I was like, there's no way they're related. That would be really creepy. John Boyega, the actor who plays Finn, had said in an interview that the romance in the new Star Wars movies was not going to go the way you thought. It wasn't going to go the way you think. He said that the romance was unexpected, that people weren't going to be expecting it. So I remember thinking to myself, well, what would be unexpected? Finn and Rose, that's predictable, which they were super adorable, by the way, but we all knew that was going to happen. And Poe and Rey, that wouldn't be unpredictable, which I'm going to talk about that Poe-Rey interaction later. And so I thought Kylo and Rey would be the most unique, interesting romance in the movies. And in all the interviews before The Last Jedi, there was all this talk about how Rey and Kylo had a connection also because they both understood what it was like to be lonely. They both had experienced loneliness. They both felt abandoned by their parents. And also there was an interview where Daisy Ridley said that Rey held a grudge against Kylo because he took away the only father figure that she ever had, Han. So I thought to myself, I was like, that does not sound like family at all. That sounds like a romantic relationship. And there was this talk about how Rey and Kylo were two halves of the same protagonist and light meeting dark, and people were saying it was like yin and yang. So I thought romantic, but like I said before, I did not want to make a video before I saw The Last Jedi. I went back and rewatched Force Awakens. I thought to myself that the scenes between Kylo and Rey were similar to the scenes between Han and Leia in New Hope. Both Han and Leia didn't like each other in the beginning. Han had nicknames like Your Worshipfulness, and Kylo called Rey a scavenger. So I thought that was really similar when I went back and rewatched the Force Awakens scenes. And in Star Wars, very rarely do the couples ever like each other in the beginning. Usually it's off to a rocky start. Even with Finn and Rose, she stunned him. She zapped him in the beginning. The theme of romances in Star Wars is that usually the people don't want to admit that they have feelings for each other. Usually the woman, Padme, didn't want to admit she had feelings for Anakin. Leia didn't want to admit that she had feelings for Han. Usually the couple in Star Wars stories don't want to admit that they have an attraction for the person that they're going to end up in a relationship with. So in Star Wars, there has always been the don't be afraid, line used of romance. It was used with Anakin and Padme with "Don't be afraid," and Padme said, "I'm not afraid to die." And then with Han and Leia when he was like, "What are you afraid of?" And she said, "Afraid." And then in Force Awakens when Kylo said, "Don't be afraid, I feel it too." And then Rey was the whole "you're afraid" bit. So I want to talk about the scene where Kylo extended his hand to Rey that was shown in all the trailers. So when I watched the clips and trailer for it, I knew that when he did that, I knew he was going to extend his hand to her, but I knew it wasn't going to be when she said, "I need somebody to show me my place in all this." I figured that this was going to be at a different scene. Like, I figured this probably was going to be after they defeated Snoke, which in the movie it was Kylo that killed Snoke, but I figured it was going to be after Snoke being defeated and the guards being defeated. Scene where Kylo wanted Rey to rule by him reminded me so much of the scene when Anakin says to Padme in Revenge of the Sith that he can kill the Emperor and they can rule the galaxy and make things the way they want it to be. The whole scene of Kylo and Rey when he wanted Rey to join his side in The Last Jedi reminded me when Padme said to Anakin that he was going down a path she couldn't follow. It was basically the same thing that Rey said to him when she said to Kylo that she couldn't join him. In the prequels, Anakin became bad. He came to the dark side after he was with the girl, after he's with the woman that he loved. So I wonder if this is going to be the reverse, if Kylo is going to come to the light side after meeting the girl. To me, I actually saw a lot of parallels between Anakin and Padme with Kylo and Rey, except Rey is just a little bit more badass than Padme. And there was 1,000 times more chemistry with Kylo and Rey than Anakin and Padme. One of the things I want to talk about is Rey and Kylo's Force bond. Kylo and Rey's connection was not just because of Snoke. Snoke was using their Force bond, but when he said his whole bit, "Oh, that's because I bridged your minds together," that obviously wasn't true. Yes, he used their Force bond, but after Snoke had died, after Snoke was dead, when Kylo killed him, Rey and Kylo still were able to see each other, and Rey was able to see him, and then she slammed the door on his face. The way Snoke used their Force bond reminded me when Palpatine used Dooku's Force bond with Yoda because they're master and apprentice to find Yoda. That storyline is a Yoda arc in the Lost Missions, Clone Wars Lost Missions, and I talk a lot about that in my one Star Wars theory video. I was so happy that they showed the Force bond in full throttle. Force bond reminded me of the storyline with Revan and Bastila, who have a Force bond in Knights of the Old Republic. Revan was a fallen Jedi who turned to a Sith, and Bastila was the strong female Jedi, and they both had a strong Force bond with each other. Bastila was afraid to admit her feelings for Revan because he was a Sith. In the Knights of the Old Republic, which they explain this in other Star Wars mediums too, but they explain that Force bonds can be so strong that the other person can feel each other's pain, and that they can even almost die if the other person in the Force bond dies. Rey and Kylo's story reminds me so much of Bastila and Revan even has similar looking armor like Kylo. In The Last Jedi, they showed so much of Rey and Kylo's Force bond, and they showed so much of it that they even showed that when Rey hurt Kylo, that he was physically hurt by that he was wounded by her. He shot him with the blaster, and they showed so much of it, how they could see each other's surroundings, they could feel the rain, they can be in the same room with each other. So I want to talk about the scene where Rey and Kylo are talking about how they saw each other's futures when they held each other's hands. So when Rey was talking to Kylo, she said that when she held his hand, she saw the future, and that in the future, he was with her on the light side. And Kylo said that when he touched her hand, he saw a future where she was by his side. Rey's view of the future seemed like a light side thing, and Kylo's view of the future with him and her seemed like a dark side thing. Yoda has said that the future is always in motion, and that the future can be very unclear. In Revenge of the Sith, Anakin had dreams of Padme dying, and it turned out that was a warning, but he completely misinterpreted that dream. It's shown in all kinds of Star Wars medium how Force users a lot of times don't know what their visions mean. They don't know what their dreams mean. Usually Force users don't know what their visions of the future mean. They don't know what their dreams of the future mean. And usually their dreams mean something different than what they think it is. Or their dreams are like a half-truth. Like there's some truth to what they're dreaming, what they're seeing, but it's not the whole truth. Like Obi-Wan says, what I told you was true, but from a certain point of view. So I think that Rey and Kylo's visions were true. I think that Kylo and Rey both saw the future when they touched each other's hands. I think what they saw was the future, but I think that the future of him and her together is going to be different than what they both saw in their visions. I felt like that whole scene was letting us know that they were going to be by each other's side, but it was going to go in a different way. Like I said before, I thought I saw so many parallels between the whole Anakin Padme thing with Rey and Kylo. When Padme said in the prequels, she said in Revenge of the Sith, "You're a good person, don't do this. He still has good in him, I know it." It was like how Rey said that Kylo was conflicted. And Rey was tempted to go with Kylo. I think if he wouldn't have said the whole bit about destroying the Resistance, I think she would have gone with him. Like, for the most part of what he was saying in that scene reminded me of a gray Jedi, except for the whole destroying the Resistance thing. Skywalker boys are always so awkward with women. I just want Anakin to show up as a Force ghost and bitch slap Kylo and be like, learn from my mistakes. Like, they could have just run away. Like, he could have just offered her to run away with him and not take a side. But he had to be a complete dummy. Like, everything else he said was fine. And like I said before, it reminded me of a gray Jedi, except for killing the Resistance thing, because he was like, let's just forget the Sith. Let's just forget the old ancient Jedi Order, because gray Jedi are not conventional. So something I want to talk about that might be a foreshadowing is the quote that Rose says to Finn. So in The Last Jedi, when Rose says to Finn, we're not going to win by our hate, we're going to win by saving the people we love, and then she calls Finn a dummy. I wondered when I saw that part if that was also referencing Kylo and Rey, because that whole scene was about how love is stronger than hate, that love is what gives you strength, not hate. That caring for people and loving people is what gives you strength. That's what makes you stronger. That's what we're fighting for. So I remember thinking when I watched that scene, if that was a foreshadow to Kylo coming to the light because he loves Rey. And there was a lot of romance in The Last Jedi. It basically was about two couples in this movie. I feel like this movie was a lot about clueless men who needed a strong woman to guide them. Like, I thought the movie was a lot about kind of innocent love, like men trying to figure out how to navigate in a relationship with a woman. Like the scene when Rey and Kylo are touching hands and Luke comes in and disrupts them and is like, no, that made me laugh so hard because that was just like two teenagers trying to make out awkwardly and your dad or your parent comes in. Rey and Kylo would have definitely made out if Luke hadn't barged in. Definitely would have been some force making out, considering how sexually charged just holding hands were between those two. There was so much sexual energy between them when they were just touching hands. I wanted them to kiss so bad. I kind of wish Luke hadn't barged in because there would have been some serious force loving between them. Finn and Rose were the super sweet, cute, adorable couple, while Kylo and Rey were like the really hot, steamy couple. I fangirled so hard in the movie when they were like crossing hands across the universe. So in the scene when Rey was going to get Kylo and he betrayed her, which I figured that was going to happen because he still has the dark side, and like Luke said, it's not going to go the way you think, which meaning it wasn't going to go like how it did in The Return of the Jedi when Luke was able to get his father to come back to the light side. I figured when I saw this image, when I first saw this image released for The Last Jedi, I figured that he was going to probably turn her over to Snoke, and then they were going to fight the guards afterwards, which is what happened. Which, by the way, I absolutely love the fact that Kylo killed Snoke. I absolutely love the fight between Kylo and Rey against the guards. That was like power couple fighting. I love how pissed he got at Snoke when Snoke was like, "Oh, I used you, blah, blah, blah." Her romance to me reminded me of Mara Jade and Luke. In the expanded universe before the movies, Mara Jade and Luke were enemies at first. They tried to kill each other, and then she came to the light side. They fell in love and they got married. And the romance of Rey and Kylo also reminded me of Bastila and Revan. He was on the dark side, and then he turned back to the light side, and they fell in love. So they have done this kind of romance before, but we just have never gotten to see it on the big screen, which I really enjoyed that. I'm just hoping that this isn't a tragic romance because Star Wars has a tendency to use tragic romance. And Poe showed up at the end and was like, "Hey, I'm Poe." And he had a flirtatious smile, and Rey seemed like she had a flirtatious smile. When I saw that, I was like, is there going to be a love triangle? Or is Kylo gonna die and they had that Poe-Rey interaction so Rey would have a love interest? When I saw that, I was like, wait a second. I mean, at least Poe's not being an idiot and he is gorgeous, but I loved the chemistry between Kylo and Rey, and he is a hot Sith Lord. Well, not really a Sith Lord. We all know he's a hurt, rejected dude. But in the original series, men had flirted with Leia and she ended up with Han. Luke had a crush on Leia until he realized that was his sister, and Lando had a crush on Leia. But because there are flirtations and crushes in Star Wars, that doesn't mean that those two are going to end up together. Because Finn and Rey didn't end up together, and the actor John Boyega had said that they weren't going to be together, even though Finn had a crush on her in the first movie, Force Awakens. After 2 hours of intense touching hands and longing and chemistry, there better be a romance between these two in the next movie. It better not be something tragic like he dies saving her, or dies for her, or just dies in general. So thank you guys so much for watching. I loved the movie. I got to see it at Disney Springs in the theater there, and that was really cool. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give a big thumbs up, please like it, and please subscribe. I'm going to do more videos, more theories based off of the plots and things that have happened from The Last Jedi. I just did not have time to put it all into one video, so be on the lookout for those future videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! And may the Force be with you.